So at this point, let's jump into what the market is doing, what the current state of the market is. Like I mentioned earlier, I think the number one thing that everyone should be in tune with is the market environment. When we say market context, that term is interchangeable with the market environment. So the discussion now is, what kind of environment are we in? And what's the outlook over the next several days? So, we can see that, overall, the market has been in a very bullish phase, of course, but that's, really big picture stuff. And it may not be as applicable on the day time frame, not necessarily every single day, right? Only at good location. So right now, what we've seen and the way that the market has behaved today specifically, what could be setting up, which we don't know yet, we have to see some level of follow through. Because until we get follow through tomorrow, let's say, on the sell side, this is still a balance. This area over here is its own sideways range. It's its own balance area, right? And we attempted to break out above it, made a marginal high yesterday, and it ended up being a failed breakout attempt. So now the question that we are trying to answer, or one possibility that we can entertain, is that this ends up being a double top failure, right, at the all-time high, so up here. And because of the failed breakout, anyone who's long the market within this balance now starts to question the reward potential and the probability of that trade actually working out, right? And that's why, like, even today, even though this is day time frame stuff, it all builds up into the larger time frame, right? The larger time frame is basically built upon these smaller time frames. And you can see that, as soon as we make a new low here and we take out the morning lows, now anyone who bought throughout the day or even in the overnight session or even yesterday is in a very risky position. And you end up getting a short-term sell-side move and a pretty, high momentum and high velocity sell-side move. Typically, this kind of activity represents stops being run. And, you can see that, a lot of buyers from today and yesterday were basically liquidating their positions, right? But then the market hits this naked VPOC and bounces off of that. So now we know that the breakout attempt has technically already failed. That's a known. So the question now is whether this is going to turn into a bigger pattern where we actually get follow through and we start heading lower, and this ends up being a bigger failure that leads to some larger time frame selling, or are we just going to continue to balance within a range, and is this just going to be a short-term liquidation type move? That is the main question that we're going to be trying to answer heading into tomorrow. So some levels to be mindful of, the high volume node within the current balance is basically 77.5 up to 79.25. So keep an eye on that area. And then, you can see that the high of this 30-minute bar is around 80.5, and that's kind of where the market really started accelerating to the downside. So, how we respond to 77.5 to 80.5 in the short term is going to be very telling. It's going to help us figure out whether buyers are really stepping back in, and is this just going to continue to be a balancing environment, or is today's failure and breakdown leading to something bigger? If we fail at 77.5 to 80.5, or if we continue holding below it, then that would signal short-term bearishness, and from there we can go down and test last week's low at 65.5 and test this HVN at 67.25, and from there we can actually go down and test the 59 to 61 support zone and this big HVN at 60.5. So right now, how the market behaves at 77.5 to 80.5, I think is really going to help us determine our short-term bias. And based on that, we're going to adjust our view. And if we continue holding below it, then like I said, you could be heading for 65.5, 67.5. You may find buyers there first time down. And then if you break that, now you'd be breaking below basically, this entire multi-day balance area. And from there, if you break 65.5, you can quite easily test 60.5. And, this is the next major level. And then if this doesn't hold, then, the next major level is down at like 49 to 51 roughly over here, which is kind of the, also kind of a bottom of a previous balance area and launching point. So right now, the market is at a important spot, I think, where, how it resolves from here on out could really have some bigger implications. Now, if it goes down, I mean, that's good for us. I mean, as day traders, volatility will expand as the market goes down. If it continues to go higher, volatility will probably stay pretty muted the way it has. But if we start getting some sell-offs here in the market, you'll start seeing a pickup in ranges and volatility, which is what we actually need as traders on the day time frame, right? We thrive on volatility and range expansion. So if it fails and starts going down, I mean, that would actually be a good thing for day traders. But if it holds and gets back above 77.5 to 80.5, then we could just be stuck in a balance again and just, kind of more of the same that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. So, this is an important inflection point in the market, and this is really going to help us establish our bias. So holding below it, we know that short term, sell side is a little more dominant here, and we could be now going lower to test 65.5 to 67.5. We may find buyers there. It's the bottom of balance. If not, then we could still find buyers at the 60.5 high volume node. And if you are trading the S&P futures, then I strongly recommend that you join me on the EminiPlayer site because that's where I'll be providing updates every morning. And the type of environment we're in, you have to be quite nimble with your bias. You have to be pretty much on top of things because the opportunity is not very high, which means that there is a lower margin of error. This is not the environment where you can take a bunch of losses and then make them back up, at least not quickly. Over time, of course, sure, in the long run, of course you can make it back up. But this is not the environment right now, at least so far what we've seen over the last several weeks is not the environment to be super aggressive. You have to be quite nimble and selective. And, you have to be willing to adjust your bias, on a daily basis. So it is a more challenging market to trade right now, for sure. And, today might be the start of a pickup in volatility. That's yet to be seen. But, we'll see. We'll see how, how the markets respond here. So that's the outlook on ES. Looking at the Russell, we can see that, it's also a failed breakout attempt. It's dropping back into this balance. And, we have 1230 as a key high volume node. We have some lows here at 28. So, 28 to 30 is going to be an important area in the Russell. And, if Russell's testing 28 to 30 and the S&P is testing its own respective support zone at the same time, then from a timing perspective, that would be a high probability time for buyers to be active. And then, below that, we have really then bigger support down here at the actual balance lows around, 17.5 to like 19.5 or 17.5 to 20 in the Russell, and HVN at the 23 area down here. And then we also have this, swing low that launches higher. So, this can be kind of minor support along the way, but then the major one is really down here at, roughly 17 to 20. So those are major spots for the Russell. And then, on the upside, you can see that the market, the swing high at 47 is going to be important. The 43 breakout area is going to be important. If we can't get back above there, then that's problematic for the Russell. So that's really the view on TF. Already covered the S&P, so we're going to go ahead and call it a day over here. Aside from that, thanks again for all the questions. I hope you're all trading well. Even though the environment is a little more challenging, there is still opportunity. So don't feel that there is no opportunity. There's less of it, for sure, but there is still opportunity in this market. There are still good trade setups available in this market. You just have to be more selective and more patient to get those setups, but they are certainly there. So I hope that you guys are capturing those. Thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up again next Wednesday. Good night.